Bonjour, my dear children. How are you all? Happy, fresh? Okay, so let's start with our very fresh chapter, lesson 14, a French lesson. Dear children, we all know that language is the most important aspect of communication, right? If we don't know how to speak a language or any language, हमारे लिए communicate करना थोड़ा tough हो जाएगा, right? So every language has its own importance, right? हमें अपने motherland का language and हमारा mother tongue दोनों fluently आना चाहिए, and not to forget English is also a very important language, right? So हमें सारे languages को equal importance देना चाहिए, and as and when we get a chance to learn new language, हमें वो मौका हाथ से जाने देना नहीं चाहिए. Okay, dear children, first we will see the summary of the story and then we'll go through the video lesson of the story. Let's start. Summary. This story is about Sarah Q, a British girl born in India. This is a story about a girl, Sarah. She was sent to a boarding school in England. वो इंग्लैंड के एक बोर्डिंग स्कूल में जा रहे हैं पढ़ने के लिए. Her teacher, Miss Minchkin, tells Sarah to learn French. उनकी टीचर ने सारा को बोला that you have to learn French. When Sarah tries to tell Miss Minchin that she already knows most of the French language, Miss Minchin interrupts her. जब सारा उन्हें बताने की कोशिश करती है that मैम, I already know some of the sentences in French, I know how to speak French, but उनकी टीचर उन्हें इंटरप्ट करती है, उन्हें बोलने से रोकती है. Dear children, is it a good practice to interrupt someone while that person is speaking? No, it's not good. चाहे कोई बड़ा हो या छोटा, सबको बोलने का मौका मिलना चाहिए. And when someone is finished speaking, only then we should keep our points or we should speak. So interrupting someone is a very bad practice. So her teacher interrupts her and tells her to learn it from a book. वो उसे इंसिस्ट करती है कि तुम पढ़ो, तुम्हें फ्रेंच पढ़ना ही है. वो सारा की बात बिल्कुल नहीं सुन रहे थे. While Monsieur Defarge comes and Sarah gets her chance. She explains to Monsieur and he knows that Sarah does not need learn French. जब उनके फ्रेंच टीचर Monsieur Defarge आते हैं तब सारा को चांस मिलता है एंड वो अपने फ्रेंच टीचर को बताते हैं कि उन्हें ऑलरेडी फ्रेंच बोलना आता है. शी ऑलरेडी डज, उन्हें आता है फ्रेंच बोलना. मिस मिंचन स्टार्ट्स टू हैव ग्रज्ड अगेंस्ट सारा. उनके टीचर को रियलाइज होता है कि उन्होंने गलत किया उसे इंटरप्ट करके. वो कुछ बोलना चाहती थी पर वो नहीं बोल पाई. इसके बाद जब मिस मिंचन को अपना मिस्टेक रियलाइज़ हुआ तो क्लास में कुछ बच्चे अपनी टीचर पे हंसने लग गए थे एंड उसके वजह से उनके टीचर को बहुत बुरा लगा, राइट? तो शी वॉज होल्डिंग अ ग्रड्ज. ग्रड्ज मीन्स एक बात को मन में डाल के रखना एंड नेगेटिविटी या नेगेटिव फीलिंग सामने वाले के लिए हमारे अंदर होना. So keeping a grudge against someone is also a very bad practice. अगर हमसे कुछ मिस्टेक होती है तो हमें उसे ठीक कर देना चाहिए, ना कि किसी के लिए नेगेटिव फीलिंग्स रखना. Dear children, now we will watch the story and be very careful while watching it.
Chapter 14. A French Lesson. When Sarah entered the schoolroom the next morning, everybody looked at her with wide, interested eyes. By that time, every pupil had heard a great deal about her. One or two of them had even caught a glimpse of her French maid, Mariette. "She isn't pretty, as other pretty people are," said Jessie, stealing a glance across the room at Sarah. "But she makes you want to look at her again. She has tremendously long eyelashes, but her eyes are almost green." Sarah was sitting quietly in her seat, waiting to be told what to do. She had been placed near Miss Minchkin's desk. She was not abashed at all by the many pairs of eyes watching her. She was interested and looked back quietly at the children who looked at her. She wondered what they were thinking of, and if they liked Miss Minchkin, and if they cared for their lessons. After Sarah had sat in her seat in the schoolroom for a few minutes, being looked at by the pupils, Miss Minchkin rapped in a dignified manner upon her desk. "Young ladies," she said, "I wish to introduce you to your new companion." All the little girls rose in their places, and Sarah rose also. "I shall expect you all to be very agreeable to Miss Crew. She has just come to us from a great distance. In fact, from India." The pupils bowed ceremoniously, and Sarah made a little curtsy. And then they sat down and looked at each other again. "Sarah," said Miss Minchkin in her schoolroom manner, "come here to me." She had taken a book from the desk and was turning over its pages. Sarah went to her politely. "As your papa has engaged a French maid for you," she began, "I conclude that he wishes you to make a special study of the French language." Sarah felt a little awkward. "I think he engaged her," she said, "because he thought I would like her, Miss Minchkin." "I am afraid," said Miss Minchkin with a slightly sour smile, "that you have been a very spoilt little girl and always imagine that things are done because you like them. My impression is that your papa wished you to learn French."
Why do you think a French maid was engaged for Sarah? सारा के लिए एक फ्रेंच मेड क्यों है? क्योंकि उसके पापा चाहते थे कि वो फ्रेंच सीखे. इज इट ट्रू? उनके टीचर सही बोल रहे हैं? वी विल फाइंड द आंसर इन द एंड ऑफ दिस स्टोरी. नाउ वी शुड कंटिन्यू विद द स्टोरी फर्दर.
If Sarah had been older or less worried about being quite polite to people, she could have explained herself in a very few words, but as it was, she felt a flush rising on her cheeks. Miss Minchkin seemed so absolutely sure that Sarah knew nothing whatever of French that she felt as if it would be almost rude to correct her. The truth was that Sarah could not remember the time when she had not seemed to know French. Her mother had been a French woman, and Captain Crew had loved her language. So it happened that Sarah had always heard and being familiar with it. I have never really learned French, but, she began, trying shyly to make herself clear. One of Miss Minchkin's chief secret annoyance was that she did not speak French herself and was desirous of concealing the irritating fact. She therefore had no intention of laying herself open to innocent questioning by a new little pupil.
That is enough,
she said with polite sarcasm.
If you have not learned, you must begin at once. The French master, Monsieur Defarge, will be here in a few minutes. Take this book and look at it until he arrives.
Sarah's cheeks felt warm. She went back to her seat and opened the book. She looked at the first page with a grave face. She knew it would be rude to smile, and she was very determined not to be rude. But it was very odd to find herself expected to study a page which told her that le père meant the father and la mère meant the mother. Miss Minchkin glanced towards her scrutinizingly.
You look rather cross, Sarah,
she said.
I am sorry you do not like the idea of learning French.
I am very fond of it, answered Sarah, thinking she would try again. But
you must not say but when you are told to do things,
said Miss Minchkin.
Look at your book again.
And Sarah did so, and did not smile, even when she found that le fils meant the son and le frère meant the brother. When Monsieur Defarge comes, she thought, I can make him understand. Monsieur Defarge arrived very shortly afterwards. He was a very nice, intelligent, middle-aged Frenchman, and he looked interested when his eyes fell upon Sarah, trying politely to seem absorbed in her little book of phrases.
Absorbed means took in something from a space around, but here it means bored, very attentive towards something, or shocked. Let's choose one. Very attentive towards something. Absorbed का मतलब होता है किसी चीज में बिल्कुल फोकस्ड हो जाना. Okay, let's see.
Is this a new pupil for me, madame? He said to Miss Minchkin. I hope that is my good fortune.
Her papa, Captain Crew, is very anxious that she should begin the language, but I am afraid she does not seem to wish to learn,
said Miss Minchkin. I am sorry about that, mademoiselle, he said kindly to Sarah. Perhaps when we begin to study together, I may show you that it is a charming tongue. Little Sarah rose in her seat. She was beginning to feel rather desperate, as if she were almost in disgrace. She looked up into Monsieur Defarge's face with her big green-grey eyes, and she knew that he would understand as soon as she spoke. She began to explain quite simply in pretty and fluent French. Madame had not understood. She had not learned French exactly, not out of books, but her papa and other people had always spoken it to her, and she had read it and written it as she had read and written English. Her papa loved it, and she loved it because he did. Her dear mamma who had died when she was born, was French. She would be glad to learn anything Monsieur would teach her. But what she had tried to explain to Madame was that she already knew the words in this book, and she held out the little book of phrases. When she began to speak, Miss Minchin started quite violently and sat staring at her over her eyeglasses until she had finished. Monsieur Defarge began to smile, and his smile was one of great pleasure. To hear this pretty, childish voice speaking his own language so simply and charmingly made him feel almost as if he were in his native land. When she had finished, he took the phrase book from her. With a look almost affectionate, he spoke to Miss Minchin. "Ah, Madame," he said, "there is not much I can teach her. She has not learned French. She is French. Her accent is exquisite."
You ought to have told me,
exclaimed an embarrassed Miss Minchin, turning on Sarah.
Miss Minchin was embarrassed because Sarah already knew French, kept quiet, refused to learn French. वो embarrassed क्यों थे? क्योंकि सारा को already French आता था? Let's take this option and check. No. Sarah was quiet while Miss Minchin interrupted her, right? So she was embarrassed. Even this one is wrong. Let's see. Refused to learn French. According to Miss Minchin, Sarah kept quiet. क्योंकि उन्हें ऐसा लगता था कि सरा को फ्रेंच नहीं सीखना है. So here the question is according to Miss Minchin. उन्हें ऐसा लगता था कि सरा फ्रेंच नहीं सीखना चाहते, तभी ही वो कुछ बोलना नहीं चाहती थी, तभी ही शायद वो चुप थी. So our correct answer over here is refuse to learn French. And if we see this question according to Sarah, then our answer will be already knew French. So हमें सबके एंगल से क्वेश्चंस को पढ़ना है and then हमें उस according answer stick करने हैं.
I tried, said Sarah. I suppose I did not begin right. Miss Minchin knew she had tried and that it had not been her fault that she was not allowed to explain. And when she saw that the pupils had been listening and some were giggling behind their French grammar books, she felt infuriated.
"Silence, young ladies,"
she said severely, rapping upon the desk.
"Silence at once."
And she began from that minute to feel rather a grudge against her new pupil, Frances Hodgson Burnett, adapted from A Little Princess.
So dear children, I hope you all are very clear with this story. Now it's time for your share it. What will you do if someone interrupts you while you are trying to speak or explain something? अगर आपको कोई सरा की तरह इंटरप्ट करे, तब आप क्या करोगे? You have to write it in 3 or 4 lines and then you have to send me the photo shot of your share it. I will see you next time with the part 2 of this video lesson. Bye dear children. God bless you.